Okay, we conclude chapter 4. In chapter 4, we're talking about the soul. We're going to talk about the soul. We talked about God having a last name. His last name is godliness. What does it mean? Well, God is beyond any kind of description. Any kind of, you can't verbalize and say it. God is no thing. He's not, as the Rambam writes, built in Metzias Nimsa, without being he is found. You can't say he's a being, but yet he is. A being means some kind of parameters to that being. That's a thing. But he's no thing. So that's something way beyond us. No parameters, no limitations, nothing. Yet God, in his infinite kindness, allowed himself to become 10 things, so to speak, emanate from him 10 things. Those 10 things are the 10 divine attributes called spheros, the illuminations, or that illuminate the world. He conducts the world through those 10 attributes. 3 intellectual, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and the 7 emotional, 7 emotions that God conducts the world with. And that is all found in the name Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, as we went into great length, and we're going to go that today, and understand that that's the uniqueness also of the divine soul, that it is infused, it is enclosed with a piece of God. That piece of God is the divine name Havaya, which gives us then 10 powers of the soul. We don't call them divine, they're not divine attributes in us, they're powers, they're potentials that can be realized. By God, his potential is realized. So those 10 divine attributes are totally one with the essence of God, and therefore, just as God is, those powers or those attributes are. I mean, God's always kind, he's always powerful, he's always compassionate, he's always wisdom and understanding and knowledge. All of those things are just are. We went into great length, and actually in the second part of Tanya, to explain that in great detail. That's not the place here for that. The importance for us over here, and we need to make the vast distinction between the divine soul and the rest of creation. The rest of creation, we don't just mean the mug that I'm holding, or the pen that I'm holding, or the heavens above, the skies above, the sun that I perceive. We even mean spiritual creations like angels that are spiritual, and spiritual worlds. All of that comes from the external aspect of God, which is his speech. And particularly the verbalization of letters that make words is what creates everything in God's creation. Again, in the spiritual and the physical world. That comes from the external aspect of God, of his speech. The divine soul, on the other hand, as we're going to learn today, comes from the internal aspect of God. It's a part of him. So the soul is not a creation of God, it is a part of God. So the soul then, as being a part of God, is not a means to an end, but as an end in itself. The rest of the creation is an end is a means to an end. A pen is only a means to something, that it can be used, that I could write something, right? The mug is a means to an end. Now, in our lives, we do have things that are an end in themselves, like our children. I hope, God forbid, that they serve a purpose. I mean, they have a purpose that they need to serve, but our relationship with them, hopefully, is that they're an end in themselves. So, when they come and act up, get wild, pain us, we don't throw them, we don't dispose them. We do that with a couch that pains us because it's now became hard, or there's the spokes came sticking out and poking me. So we get rid of it. Why? Because this couch only serves a purpose. to give us comfort. It's only a means to an end. Our children, hopefully not that way. But in any case, that's just a metaphor for us to understand this important idea, this idea that this divine soul, being a part of God, is an end in itself, doesn't serve a purpose. It is the purpose. And therefore has a piece of God in him. And what is that piece? The divine name, the Tetragrammaton, Shem Havaya. Now, just as we explained in the previous class that this name represents the 10 divine attributes, so now we're going to understand that this is also the 10 powers of the soul and more of the soul. And there's going to be a little distinction on how we understand it within us, the power of God's, the power of God's name that is vested within our divine soul, and how that makes us a piece of the divine. So let us go into it. So the Yud, similar to the way it is in the divine order of things, refers to Chachma. Chachma means, translated as wisdom. It's like a point. You know what wisdom is? You ever walk down the street and you were like there was some issue that was in your head that was, you needed to come to terms with. You need to figure out. You're a little confused, and whatever teachings in Tanya, and you go, oh, Eureka! You ever said Eureka? What is Eureka? A light came off in your head. That light is Chachma. It's a flash of a seed that has the entire idea, but it has it in its conceptual complete. It's not complete because it's only a seed. Just like a seed can grow into a tree, but the seed can also develop into nothing. So, what happens? You get that flash and someone just gives you a little nudge. Hey, Ronnie, what's doing? All of a sudden, I forgot it. Why? Because I didn't have it developed. It was just that seminal idea that is in my head. Right? And that's the letter Yud. Yud could be represented by a dot, seminal seed, a dot, and this is Chochmah. It lacks breadth, depth, length, because it's not developed yet. Like the seed is not developed into the tree, right? So the same thing over here. The intellect lacks. It's a potential. It's the source of intelligence, but it itself is not real and real intelligence. And that's why it came from beyond you, right? It just, the flash came. Then we have the letter Hey. Now the letter Hey here is going to be a little different than the way we explained it in the previous class, the way it is in the divine order, and I'll explain why. It's because, I'll explain. The top part here, you start with the Yud, and you're developing it into its breadth, right? That's Bina. Bina means taking and developing the seed, that intuition of a spark, of a light that came into your head, of an idea, right? And it's developed. Now, it's developed meaning that now you have full understanding of the initial thought that came into your head. You've worked on it. You've engaged in it, and you got it. Kind of own it. Now, the more breadth there is, right? So the more you understand something, what does that do then? Where does that go? Well, the more Bina we have, the more we will have an emotional attachment to that which we understand. When we understand how good God is, how good Hasidic teachings, Tanya is, the more it develops our feelings towards it, right? The more we understand something, the more it develops the feelings. And here, this is now going into developing feelings. Draw down. It's like a letter Vav, but this is the 6 emotions over here. The 6 emotions. 6 emotions: kindness, power, slash refrain. And that's the power of holding back, biting your tongue. Right? There's the power of giving, kindness, power of refrain, of holding back. There's the power of the power of compassion, and then there's the power of endurance. There's the power of endurance. That's Netzach. There's the power of acknowledgement slash humility. There is the power of connection. Those are the 6 emotions. So from the more you understand something, more it develops emotions. The less you understand, the less of an emotion it will develop. So hence the letter Hey here connects the 2 together. Right? Now there's a lot to go in here. Now, then we go into Vav, the last 2 letters, Vav and a Hey. This refers to speech, and this is to action. This refers to action, the letter Hey, our actions. Why speech and action? Because, well, that's the ultimate, is that everything that we do needs to be brought in, well, into thought, which would be, into thought, but to our speech, which is predicated on our thoughts. We speak our minds, meaning our thoughts, right? So this is speech. Draw down, to reveal. This is really where revelation starts to another person, is in our speech. Even though in emotions we can have an emotion towards somebody, but only when we reveal it to another is it really a revealed emotion. So now the emotions and intelligence is revealed through our speech, and then the Hey is the action. The letter Hey, you have like thought, speech, and action, which are also in the letter Hey, meaning representing how action is disconnected, right? You speak what you think, but that doesn't mean you act upon it. You can talk the talk, but that doesn't mean you walk the walk. That's the letter Hey, where there's that disconnect when it comes to action, right? And this is the powers of our soul. Now, why there's a distinction here, the way we explained it previously, the basic idea is because we're talking about the divine soul over here. The divine soul, well, it has its intelligence, has its the emotions, but ultimately the divine soul is meant to be expressive through our thought, speech, and action. So that's just one explanation. There's more on that, but we'll leave it at that for now. So this is what God did. He blew within, from the depths of himself into Adam and into each and every one of us, a divine soul that is a part of him. This is what it is made up of, powers of our soul that we can access in our lives. That we can access in our lives. This is know thyself. This is who we are. This is the depths of our being, of our divine soul. Okay, my take on this now. In other words, what can we take out from this on a personal level that we can journal about, that we can make it personal? So the first thing is we need to know ourselves. We need to know that we have these components in our divine soul. By the way, we have them in our animal soul too. Animal soul has intelligence. It also has emotions, but those are self-directed. Right? The intelligence is there just to kind of get what I want, right? Based on the desires that I have, and the emotions are also self-directed, and as opposed to God-centered. Intelligence over here means an intelligence in how I can understand my relationship with God. How can I understand God in my life? How can I understand um, divine purpose in my life, and so on. Understand it intellectually and emotionally, and how I can bring that into practice and thought, speech, and action. So the first thing that's so important over here is we need to know the different aspects of our soul and the capacity that we can have to connect to God. And through connecting to God, then we have a capacity in how we can connect to others and fulfill our purpose here in this world. So we need to understand what Chachma, like, you know, am I developed? Am I using my Chachma? Am I using my ingenuity, my the flash of, you know, of new idea that comes to me? Am I able to develop my thoughts, my understanding of something, right? Or am I lacking in that area? Um, am I able to take that and those things and through Das connect to like make it real? That I know something, but make it real for me. That's what Das is, to connect it with it intellectually, that it's not just an idea, but it's real for me. Am I capable? Am I doing that? That's a potential we all have. Am I actualizing it? Am I using that in my life? You know, I'm sorry to say that most of us live on autopilot. We're not really engaged in life. Because then we would be fully aware of the powers we have in our soul and use them. But you know, we just kind of live life by the by, you know. But we need to know these powers that we have in us are exceptional. Do we understand what it means chesed? Indiscriminate giving. Are we at times indiscriminate in our giving? The appropriate time. Not to the drug addict. Don't be indiscriminate to the drug addict and give them. Even your own child who might be an addict. Right? Are we able to say no? The power of gvura. Refrain. Can I say no to myself? Think about to someone else. Can I bite the bullet and just, hey, don't say that? Okay, am I able to hold back and not eat breakfast right away when I want to? That's gvura. Am I having compassion? Compassion for in the appropriate manner. Empathy, to really feel another person. Endurance, netzach. Netzach means to endure. Endure means that I don't feel the love. It's called an enduring love. It's a passionate love. Something, you know, I give when I have a passionate love to somebody. But how about you don't feel the passion? But you gotta be giving. That's an enduring. That's being triumphant. That's a victory. That's a enduring love, where you don't feel the passion, but you are really kind. Am I capable of hod? Am I using that attribute of hod, which means acknowledgement? Am I able to acknowledge another and recognize their greatness? That takes humility, and that's hod, is humility. Am I able to recognize and allow others to be great? And acknowledge it. Yesod, foundation, which means connection. Can I sense a very deep connection with another that even I didn't see them maybe for 30 years? But there's a deep connection. We didn't even talk. But because of the deep connection, didn't skip a heartbeat in those 30 years, and you saw each other now and you're so connected. Just saw a video Rabbi Joseph Ber Soloveitchik, the head of the Yeshiva University, passed away many years ago. But as he came to the Rebbe, and they knew each other from Berlin in the late 1920s, and they had a wonderful friendship in their youth. Didn't see each other for many years, but when they saw each other, it was as if like old friends. Didn't miss, and they were just connected because they're connected. That's you saw a deep connection. And then, of course, how that expresses itself in thought, speech, and action. So, if we understand the divine soul and its powers, and we think about what can I develop in me, what can I enhance in me, in my divine connection to God, in my relationship to others, and so on and so forth. Okay.